Yo, Vapor Man here, and today I want to introduce you to our next guest. He is a member of the New Nicotine Alliance, amongst others. He offers a free service to smokers to educate them to quit. He was judged one of the top 10 tobacco influencers in the second quarter of 2020 and is a researcher on a paper authorized by Dr. Glover from New Zealand. A place, by the way, that has logical regulations when it comes to vaping. He is a man who has forgotten more about tobacco harm reduction than Vapor Man will ever know in his life. You may know him on Twitter as vapor_the, but Vapor Man knows him as somebody I can rely on when I need a word of advice. Mr. Andrew Thompson, thank you so much for coming on the show today, sir.
Thank you, Vapor Man, for inviting me on your show.
As always, I always ask everybody the same question who I have come on the show. That is, have you ever been under the employ of big tobacco or vaping lobbyists?
No and no, respectively. To be honest, I would take money from a till of a hun if it came with no strings attached and I could use it for vape advocacy, but no vape industry or tobacco industry has offered.
I like it. I like it. You deserve it, but I like it. First and foremost, the most important thing we got to jump onto straight away. Currently, there is an inquiry going on in the Senate to tobacco harm reduction. I've been telling everybody to get their submissions in. I know you have too. The first question is, if a viewer currently watching this has not already, would you encourage them to do it?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Look, it can be easily done through the Legalise vaping site, and I should clarify that there is one petition running at the moment, which I hope they've all signed, and two inquiries, one by the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration of Australia, and the Senate inquiry. Having previously posted to various submissions to the Therapeutic Goods Administration, I have decided not to even bother doing that this time and think that the Senate Select Committee inquiry into THR is the one to go for, because the Oz politicians who can fix this situation, and they certainly should fix it.
Definitely. I just watched a video from a senator who was grilling somebody from the TGA, I believe, and the TGA guy said, basically, well, we're going to do what we want. The only way you can stop us is through the government. So you're completely right there. Vapor Man did send one into the TGA, but Vapor Man is a naive fool. I just figure it's therapy, you know, just let people know what's going on. How does a petition compare to these submissions to the Senate? Like, which do you think is more effective?
Definitely to the Senate. The politicians are really the only ones who can carve THR, tobacco harm reduction, out of the poison schedule. As Skerritt was saying in his web info things that they were doing basically to stroke their own egos, that politicians couldn't interfere with their inquiry. And then he immediately followed that on with why the politicians had carved smoking out of their responsibility. And I thought, yeah, okay, well, they can't interfere with your inquiry, but they can take the responsibility of it completely away from you, and they certainly should.
And I just want to add too, thank you for all your previous submissions. This isn't your first time around the park, as I'm aware. Vapor Man's a vapor. He don't really know that much about THR or tobacco harm reduction. It's not just vaping that'll stop people from smoking or have people use nicotine in safer ways. You've been doing it for a long time. Aside from vaping, what do you recommend people do to quit smoking?
Well, basically, find something that's better, that you enjoy more. That might be Swedish snus, a form of smokeless tobacco. It could be vaping. It might be the newer nicotine pouches, which are tobacco-free. Or it could be heat not burn, otherwise known as heated tobacco products.
Could you just clarify, what is snus? It sounds very fancy, this snus.
Snus is an oral tobacco, smokeless. It comes in apparently free open form, which is just wad up and place between your gum and lip. And also pouches. One of my friends from the Scandinavian countries, Bengt Weiberg, has also developed a sting-free form of snus, which is apparently a complaint of some of the people who first try snus.
Ah, I think I have heard of snus before. Does the snus include sort of that South American dip, that sort of like gooey stuff that you just sort of like crunch and then put on? I think the baseballers use that sort of stuff too. No, that's chewing tobacco. That's different, isn't it?
Okay, there are a lot of different forms of smokeless tobacco, but as far as harm reduction goes, snus, Swedish snus especially, is the gold standard of harmless. In decades of use, they found no difference in life expectancy of snus users and the general population.
Awesome. Still on the subject of tobacco harm reduction, I noticed you've done a lot of work in poorer and lower middle income areas and countries. Could you walk us through a little bit of why that's so important to you?
Highest rates of smoking are amongst people of lower income, people with mental illnesses, people in prison and the homeless, and also in lower and middle income countries. In fact, 80% of the world's smokers live in LMICs, and it's pretty much a growth market for cigarettes, which I think is tragic in this day and age.
Yeah, it's sort of like with all the stuff that we are starting to get away from, the high sugar drinks and all this sort of stuff, these big corporations just seem to look at these lower income countries and go, well, the old bag of tricks will work there. Let's give that a shot. Moving along, I met you on Twitter. Apparently you have a Twitter account. I should follow you. Everybody go follow ATHRA on Twitter. Some very interesting words of advice. Some very interesting and accurate, reviews of science, and just some funny jokes sometimes. It's a lot of fun. I'm just starting to get the hang of Twitter now. So
don't forget the trolling.
Yes. It's just starting to. Well, anyway, Vapor Man will make a lot of mistakes. Once again, I will be coming to you, Andrew, for advice when it comes to Twitter. You feel validated to have been blocked by just about every public health bureaucrat and anti-nicotine tobacco zealot in this country. Keeping in mind this video isn't going to go for 8 hours, can you walk us through that?
Well, it's a pretty short story, really. As soon as you challenge most of the people who are anti tobacco harm reduction, or in some cases just anti-nicotine, like that, you get blocked. And if they don't block you, they mute you.
I was tweeting to one particular health person, and basically they put up a tweet that said, what vaping enthusiasts don't want you to know, like it's some sort of big secret that he's uncovered. I retweeted it and just said, I also want you to know this, and this about this post. He blocked me for that. So it's like, some of these people, they have very thin skin. I understand, this is important, I understand you are currently organizing a protest, aka the Mobile Advocacy Platform, aka the Ute. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
It's basically a plain ute that I've erected a frame on the back of to hold two 6x4 banners, a smaller banner on the back. There's a scrolling text sign to hang on the back of it. Two custom animated displays, which cost me a lot more time and money than I had originally anticipated, and a couple of magnetic signs for either the doors or the bonnet and the roof, depending upon which works best. I will be taking it down to Canberra and circling Parliament for 4 days during a time when both houses of Parliament are sitting in early November.
And everybody, this is a reminder, not just for the Senate inquiry, but also get in and talk to your politicians, talk to your local members, talk to your senators. There are some senators doing some amazing work in the Senate right now for tobacco harm reduction. Support them. If they're doing well, support them. If they're saying something that's a bit silly, let them know you're a bit silly. Here's the actual evidence. Now, I want to conduct a little experiment here. So from time to time, you and I have different points of view, right? We'll argue. We'll argue, we'll discuss ideas. For example, I go by Vapor Man. You have the testicular fortitude to use your real name. You don't have a prescription because we shouldn't have a prescription. And I can respect and agree with your position, but Vapor Man has a prescription. You honestly risk going to jail. If they want to put you in jail because you don't have a prescription and you have nicotine, they could put you in jail. Vapor Man, that ain't for Vapor Man. But look, I'd like to conduct a live experiment, conduct a little bit of an argument right here live. I'm going to flash a tweet on your screen, and I'd like you to respond. If you could also please read the tweet out and then give me your response in real time. So here we go. I'm gonna bring that up. All right, incoming.
As soon as otherwise normal people get on Twitter, they immediately and irreversibly develop Asperger's syndrome. I prefer to think of it as high-functioning autism, HFA. It allows me great powers of concentration, but sometimes I concentrate a little too much on the detail and not the bigger picture.
No, I mean, the way I look at Twitter is, I mean, it's you can't read people's facial expressions. You can't get that sort of real-time reaction like you would in a conversation like this. You know, you can't, like, sarcasm does not come on good with tweets, and yet everybody wants to say something witty and something. You know, you got such a short amount of characters, and it's like we don't seem to realize. Sometimes we're talking at cross purposes. Sometimes we may be agreeing, but we think we're not. You know, Twitter for me could be such an awesome platform if it was used to sort of have different sides discuss things, but everybody just seems to be blocking each other and throwing these bombs. I don't know, that was my thought on Twitter. This experiment was pretty lame at the end of the day.
Well, as far as the communicating sarcasm goes, I make very liberal use of emojis to try and get across the tone. I'm not sure if it always works.
Yeah, and once again, see, like, we can have a discussion about the little paragraph now and sort of come to some sort of understanding, whereas on Twitter that can be impossible, especially if people block you. I haven't blocked anybody yet, and I don't understand why people ever would. But yeah, that's just my sort of 2 cents on that.
Look, as far as disagreeing with people goes, I don't. We used to have a situation in the vape forums in Australia where people would say, "Okay, before we do anything, we all have to agree." And I'd think, get 10 vapors in a room and ask them 3 questions, and you could not get all 10 to agree on just 3 simple questions of yes, or I support that, or no, I don't. I think differences of opinion are a great thing.
And I mean, that's the whole point too. I mean, if somebody doesn't agree with you, that's great. You might actually learn something, you know? I mean, it's
absolutely, absolutely.
I'm sure I've learned so many things over my time on social media, and it's like, oh, that actually isn't true. Oh, no, that is. Oh, well, you know, that's the whole point. You need to come to something with some sort of idea that you want to discuss and whatnot. And the biggest thing is, vapors are very open to discussion, very open to differences of opinion. People in public health, it's like they just direct from on high, and there's no sort of discussion after that, you know? So that's been my experience anyway.
Yes, I agree with that.
Andrew, speaking of tobacco harm reduction, as a vapor, I always worry about, you know, levels of nicotine, the difference between nicotine salts and all this sort of stuff. What's one of the worst things you've encountered personally?
A guy got into the Aussie forums on vaping and said that he'd been vaping for a couple of days with liquid a friend had given him. He added that it was giving him headaches and it was really harsh. And after we plugged down to the details, it turned out he'd been vaping 10% nicotine without flavours. That's 100 milligram per milliliter of nicotine. And it's never supposed to be vaped. But even at that level, he just got a headache and stopped. That was the worst thing that happened to him. Of course, the bottles should be kept away from children. All the bottles should have childproof packaging. But if you put it in a vaporizer and vape it, it's not going to kill you.
Andrew Thompson, vapor_the on Twitter. Go follow him. What have you got coming up, mate? Anything else? Anything you want to plug?
Okay, well, I will show you some of the wares I'll be taking down to Canberra with me. We've got a Legalise vaping cap. Can that be seen? Live long and vape in a Star Trek tradition. A white cap with I vape, I vote. We've got Latin for I came, I saw, I vaped.
I like that one.
And one that you've cautioned me against in the past, but I think the politicians will see it in the right light.
No, I just said I just meant it as in, if the politicians decide to stop us from vaping, we may actually die. So they may see that as okay, we can get rid of these people if we just anyway.
And of course, if it's not big enough on the hat, I've got it also on a t-shirt. And my favourite one for this is don't be a hunt.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Andrew. And so everybody out there, don't be a hunt. If you don't know, now you know.